Hi everyone, it is Rochelle, you know me. I'm here doing a modified version of the Hatha practicum. And this is a version that is more appropriate for those who may have knee issues, or some back issues. Basically, we will be using some blocks to help support us. So grab a couple of blocks if you're doing this practice. That part is mandatory. If you don't have blocks, you can always practice with a stack of books, but it can be a little bit cumbersome. So if you can find some blocks, that would be ideal. And so we are going to get started. So having those props nearby, and we'll actually use one block to take a seat on top of. So stacking the ankles, leaning forward, and throwing that block underneath you. Nice. So as you're here feeling supported on that little perch or balanced on your little perch here, and just switch which leg you have closest to you, as we always have habits in the body, and it's nice to counter those habits every once in a while more often. Perfect. As you're here feeling long and tall in the spine, feeling that axial extension, so the spine reaching straight up to the ceiling, as if you could sort of give some space to your vertebrae. We can't really, but we can imagine. And closing the eyes here, finding that long, deep breath, and just checking in, seeing if your breath is long and deep, just notice it. And as you're breathing, see if you can relax into the groin here, as if your breath could come all the way down in between your hips, as if your glutes were your lungs. Breathe there. And let the movement, you know about the core capsule, and let the movement happen through that core capsule, and knowing that it supports the shoulders and the hip. Unclench the teeth and the jaw. We're changing this long, deep breath to a square breath. Inhaling for a count of 4. Retain for 4 counts. Through the mouth, exhale for 4 and leave the breath out for 4 counts. Continue. Now this is your personal count of 4. And on the next exhale, let it be out through the nostril. So whenever that resonates with you, let the tongue go to the top of the mouth here, closing the insertion point of some of the tissues that are deep inside the core of the body. And you might feel when you press your tongue to the top of the mouth, you might feel your throat and those muscles engage. That's lovely. Breathing in for 4, hold for 4. Exhale for 4 and leave the breath out for 4 counts. Last square breath here. Beautiful. Sweep the arms wide and high. Bring the palms all the way together and down in front of your chest, in front of your heart here. Set your personal intention. What brings you to practice today? I would also like to offer you an intention if you're open to it. The intention of moving your body with kindness, or in yoga we call it ahimsa, non-violence. We'll start our practice with a single chant of Om. This practice breath, breathing in and exhaling through the mouth again, and then take the breath in, holding the breath, and now Om. Interlace your fingers here, and then start to figure 8 the hands. So we can straighten the elbows a little bit and drawing that sideways figure 8, so it is that infinity symbol. So we automatically did this in a particular direction. Let us reverse that direction and move the other way. And there's another example of the patterns that we have well groomed in our movements. So the nervous system was very used to moving in that direction we just did, and now it might feel kind of funny when we go the other way. Now that you're here, bringing the palms back into a prayer position, do touch your elbows together right in front. I'm just turning to the side so I can still see you. Touch those elbows together, which will separate those shoulder blades a little more, and start to glide the elbows up and down. I call this downward dog shoulders, and it doesn't look like downward dog at all, but it is still the same movement that we need when we go into our downward dog posture. It's just right now we're moving the arms more, and in downward dog we would move the body more. But it's the same movement of the arms. Try to go up, high, 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 and then down again. Last two, and last one. Perfect, relax down. Nice. We're going to recline onto the back. First, take your prop out from underneath you and putting it off to the side. Swing your legs around and keep your knees bent. Drop the elbows down so that you can support yourself and make sure that the back feels supported here. Landing your spine now against the earth and letting your chin nod slightly towards your throat so that the back of your neck can lengthen and we can get out of that the forward head posture and really keep that neck into it, straight up and down alignment with the rest of the spine. Now that you're here, separate your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Energize the legs by pushing your feet through the floor. We're going to now transition to warming up the spine. Sink your lower back to the ground and put your tailbone up towards your knees and just see how that feels and how the body's responding. Untuck your tail here and then continue to pivot here. So I mentioned the spine, but we're moving the hips. Well, of course, your hips are connected to the spine, and you can feel the lumbar vertebrae moving down and lifting up. We're going to continue with that. Sink your lower back to the floor, tailbone is pointing up, and now press into your feet. Lift the ribs off of the ground, coming up, not all the way to bridge, but 70%, and then roll. We want to drop the ribs down, then the lower ribs, and then the lumbar vertebrae, and then untuck your tailbone. Retuck the tailbone, lift the lumbar, low back, lift the lower ribs up, and then undulate from the top of the spine going down towards the bottom, which is your tailbone. Untuck, retuck, and lift again. So we're warming up the spine here a little bit different than we would in like an undulating cat-cow, because we have a different relationship to gravity, and we have the floor that we're pushing into with the feet and sinking into with the spine here. And last time, we'll lift the hips up and we'll hold in this position just for a moment. Very much recruit through the buttocks here. And then not rolling the spine, but drop your pelvis straight down to the ground. Fantastic. Now that you're here, bring your right knee into your chest and take it a little bit wide towards your underarm. We'll do the same. Left knee comes into your left underarm. Circle the knees here, big rotations. Let your spine move with this. Good. We want to do 5 in both directions, reversing, going the other way. Unclench your teeth in your jaw if that's happening for you. Good. So now it's good that we're softening that jaw, because that jaw, that tension leads all the way to the groin, believe it or not. Let's bring the knees into the chest, and then taking the left leg all the way to the floor. The right knee comes towards that right underarm again, and then bring the hand behind the thigh, hook it, and straighten that leg all of the way up. Flex the ankle and pull down. Point the toe, push away and up, and then flex, pulling down. So now we're going to really push this hand into the thigh and use both of the legs. So we're holding the hamstring here, and this is a little bit of therapy for the knee with the ankle mobility that's happening. Good, straighten that leg up. Yes, now start to straighten the left leg to the degree that it feels okay for you. So straighten that left leg out. And if you're feeling okay and you want a little bit more, go ahead and dorsiflex into that foot here. And then we'll start to rotate through that ankle joint, heating up this ankle, and then reverse, go the other direction. If this doesn't feel right, you bend your knee more, and you can even keep the left knee bent as well. Landing that right foot all the way down to the floor right here. And we'll take the arms big and wide and start to sway the knees side to side to wake up the rotational aspect of the spine. Unclench your teeth. And coming back to center, drawing that left knee towards your left underarm here. Perfect. Let's hook the hand behind the leg and straighten through and pull the heel down. So at any time, you can either keep this right knee bent or you can straighten it out. So it's up to you, the timing for that. Out and in. Nice. And then straighten that leg here and perhaps go a little deeper by flexing the ankle joint, which will ask more of those hamstrings. You're gonna pull just gently, not hard, but just a little bit, like a centimeter closer to you again, if that's available here. Good, and then ease off on that leg, rotate through the ankle. You can do this again with a bent knee. And reverse, go the other direction. Lovely. And then bring both knees into the chest, a little rock side to side, right to left. Let's roll to one side. Place your hands down, supporting your head and rolling the side spine all of the way up. Perfect. So now that you're here, we're going to hands and knees coming into a tabletop position. Again, make sure that those blocks are nearby. Now that you're here, we'll tuck those toes under. Send your hips towards the heels and walk the hands to the knees, lifting your knees off of the floor and into a forward fold. Bend the knees a lot and rest your chest here. This will give a little stretch to your lower back area. And then place your palms onto the back of your pelvis and use the push of your hands into the hips and press of your feet through the floor to lift you all of the way up to standing. Nice. Now that you're here, we're going to come to the top of the mat and have your blocks on their highest height, just next to your toes on either side. Standing tall, feet are slightly separated. I can't do this, I want to face you. So imagine I'm there at the top of the mat with you and bring your toes straight forward underneath the hip bones. Sweep the arms up high and wide. Inhale, bringing the palms down in front of your heart and hold into your Tadasana pose for 2 more breaths. One more time. Push through the earth, resist the ground. And this time we'll sweep the arms wide and high, keeping them directly above the shoulders. Now, as you're here, we're coming into a chair position. Send your hips back, bend into your knees, and find that diagonal spine. It's not rounded, it's not arched, it's just still in neutral position. Now that you're here, land your hands on top of the blocks. Bring your blocks a little closer, and the left leg steps back. Now you can go a little and wiggle the foot back, or you can take a big step into that lunge position. Now, since you might be dealing with knee issues, I don't recommend dropping the knee to the floor, but do support yourself with the blocks instead. Now that you're here, just hold into this lunge position. Let's correct into the spine, unshrug the shoulders, lengthen the torso, push your front right foot into the ground. I'm going to challenge you and ask you to lift your toes if that feels available for you. We can perhaps place the right hand on top of the right thigh. And if you feel like rotating just a little or rotating a lot, find your rotation here, what works for your spine, your body. One more breath, please. And then releasing the hand back down. Going into a posture called pyramid, we straighten through the right knee. Push the floor away, but because the floor won't move, the knee is going to straighten instead. Notice that your pelvis is in neutral, so we haven't swung the left hip back. We want to keep the right hip back instead. So you can actually even bring your thumb inside of the hip crease and drive that hip slightly back here. Push into the ground and then put the weight into your back heel and see if you want to find a little more calf stretch there. Breathe in long and tall through that spine. Feel the stretch in your calf. Nice. And then softening that front knee, step forward here and take it into that Utkatasana chair pose once again. Sit into the hips. The tailbone is not tucked under or up to the ceiling, it's neutral. Take the arms out or bring the hands to prayer. You can even rest the hands on your thighs here. Hug the front ribs in to support the spine and feel free to lift the chest a little bit more. So again, change and modify this posture to see what feels right for your body. Placing the hands back down to the ground, it's the right leg. Step it little and then wiggle it back or take a big leap here. We want to stack the front left knee roughly above the ankle and sink the hips down. Find power in that straight leg. And now think of your thighs hugging to the midline. Wake up the muscles a little bit more. Left hand could come to your left thigh. If you want to add a little rotation, absolutely. or maybe a little bit more, and take the left arm up again, only if that works for your body. Breathe here. Unshrug the shoulders, hug the thighs to the midline, and then release that left palm back down to your block. Start to push the ground away with your left foot. That ground doesn't move still, does it? Okay, so we're gonna straighten the knee instead and push that left hip up to the sky. Great, so feel that power, and go ahead and lift your left toes here. It's a little bit of a challenge pushing into the ball and the heel of your foot, and find the stretch in your calf muscle on that right leg. Let the breath come and go. Nice. Perfect. And coming forward once again, stepping that right foot maybe a couple of times until you get it all the way underneath your hip. Bend into the knees, bringing the hands to heart center and pushing the floor weight to come standing into Tadasana once again. So now that you're here, we're moving to a little bit of a balancing posture. Bringing the hands to the hips, feel that symmetry of the pelvis. Without letting the hips drop, lift your right heel, stay steady. Turn that right knee out to the side and hold here. Now, if you like, you can stay in this kickstand, but let the toe barely touch the mat, very light. You could also lift the foot slightly or lift it higher. Again, we want to make sure that the pelvis stays roughly neutral. The right hip might be a little higher, but we want to think of leveling out and not letting the hips sink into that left side. Activate through the glute medius and minimus here. Give it a good squeeze. And perhaps the arms reach up high, or they can stay in front of your chest in prayer. Even though the arms are lifted, the ribs are not thrusted forward. Activate through your core, so feel the engagement of your abdominal muscles. And bringing the palms to prayer. Landing the right foot here. Perfect. Let the breath come and go. We're standing on that right leg without setting the hips out to the side. Lift your left heel. Turn your left knee out to the side for kickstand, or change where you place that left foot. The arms big and wide into a victory V above your shoulders without sending the spine into extension. Knee opens wide to the side. Engage through the right buttocks, keeping that engagement. Lift tall and feel the abdominal muscles support you here. Breathe. Bringing the hands back to prayer position and the left foot lands down. Wonderful. So we're going to take a wide stance on the mat, turning to the long edge. And you again might need your block here as we go into our warrior series. Initially, we have a wide position with the legs. We're first turning the right toes to the right side, so spinning those right toes all of the way. And let your left heel go out a little past your left baby toe. As you're here now, bend into that right knee a little, or you can go a lot. I'm going to do a little here, so just a bit of a bend. Notice that the knee is not falling in, which tends to happen. Activate your buttocks and bring the knee wide to your baby toe. Bringing the arms up at shoulder height and gazing down the right arm to the right fingertips, warrior two here. Press into that left foot and feel the buttocks engage. Feel the abdominal muscles float and lift you. As you exhale, engage even more. Perfect. Turn the right bicep to the ceiling, the right palm supinates to the sky, and then reverse your warrior by landing the left hand and reaching the right hand up to whatever degree that it feels okay for you. And if this doesn't feel right, stay in the first warrior two position. Let's come back to that warrior two. Bring the hands to the hips here and turning those right toes to the edge, to the side. Great. Switching to the left, turning those left toes. So notice that the pelvis hasn't turned with the toes. We keep it to the side to the degree that we can. And then bend into that left knee. Let's look at it and make sure we're steering it wide to the baby toe so we can still see that big toe. Go to whatever sort of bend feels right for you. Reach those arms big and wide. And feel the arms now plug into the shoulders. Engage the abdominal, the deeper core as well. And then push your power through the floor with your feet. Gazing down the right arm to the right fingertips right here. And breathe. Supinate the left arm, elevate the left arm, and land the right hand. The breath come and go. Here's where we often let the knee fall inward, really directed to the baby toe. We also want to stay with the bend in the hip and the knee and not straighten through. It's not triangle pose. Level out, bringing the arms back to warrior two. Hands to the hip, straighten through that left knee and turn those left toes forward once again. As you're here now, bring the hands to the top of the thigh and start to tilt forward with a straight spine. Soften the knees a little bit here or a lot. Use your hands for support and then take your block and bring that tall in front of you and feel the spine lengthen. So it's not about going down to the ground. It's about maintaining the straight spine. Press for the feet, tilt the tailbone slightly up, but hug your front ribs in towards the back. Stay engaged. Notice as you hug your front ribs in, your shoulder blades might slightly part a little bit more. Beautiful. As we're here now, we're going to take it all the way down to the ground here. So if you can, bend into the knees and bring the hands down. We're going to take one leg out and sit to the hip, taking it to the floor. Great. Now that we're here, we're moving into a tabletop position onto hands and knees initially. Taking your hands now you can go through a narrow chaturanga type position, but if that doesn't feel right for your shoulders, I invite you to take a wider stance as the shoulders can generally handle that a little bit more. It's not that we don't want to train in chaturanga, we do. It's just if you have an injury, taking it wide might be a little kinder. Coming all of the way down with those elbows out to the side. Perfect. Now that you're here, reach the arms straight out in front of you, and we're going to touch the tips of the fingers to the floor. We don't want to look forward and stretch through the front of the throat. We want to bow the nose towards the ground and look towards the surface of the floor. Firm into the buttocks, reach your big toes towards the wall behind you. Now what we want to do here first is to hug the front ribs up towards your spine and feel that difference. Activate and feel a different alignment within the spine. Elevate just the right leg and feel firm into the right buttocks. Elevate the opposite arm, the left arm lifts here. And you can turn the palm to the middle. Breathe. Release that hand, that leg down. And now we'll firm into the glutes, firm into the thighs, lift your straight left leg up. So it's not about getting it high. A lot of people will bend their knee in order to get the foot higher. We want to try and touch the wall away from you and float the right arm up here as well. Breathe. Land the palm, land the leg, and then slide you to the ground and then ease off. Now imagine you are pushing forward instead of up and think of your body lengthening, elbows hugging nice and nice and narrow. Firm through the glutes, hug the front ribs up to the spine, and you'll feel that little bit of movement, adjustment internally. Now that's the back of the head that starts to lift as we go towards baby cobra. The back of the neck, the back of the head, we're still not looking forward. And then let your chin lift just slightly and gaze at a diagonal beyond the front edge of your mat in this wee baby cobra. Great. Coming into child's pose here. So you can soften the knees, press into those arms, lift the hips, and then come into this wide-kneed child's pose, sinking the hips to your heels. Walk the hands forward, and with the knees big and wide, let your straight spine come down. Now, if your head is really far away from the floor, we don't want to touch the top of the head to get the head rested. You could stack your hands and rest your forehead, so we're not looking to bend the neck too much. Please breathe. If this doesn't feel right for your knees, you flip over to your back and you hug your knees to your underarms. So that's a perfect modification here. The legs are going into deep flexion, which is a nice alternate because the hips are often in a mid-range of flexion. We're going deep this time. Breathe wide in the rib cage. Let the breath seemingly come into the groin, into the pelvic floor. And then slowly, using your hands to support you, take your hip to the ground and swing the legs out in front. We will need a prop for this reclined series here. So as you're here, we're bringing that block nearby, dropping again onto the elbows, bending the knees. Great. Now that you're here, we're separating the feet a little wider than the hips, and we're going back into a bridge, but we'll be holding this bridge a little longer. The arms are strong. Please turn your biceps to the sky and tuck your shoulders a little bit underneath you, and then let just your wrists turn down. Toes are straight forward, legs are active. So separating your thighs and bringing your feet wide will help to support the pelvis here. When you're ready, tuck your tail and lift to 70% of your bridge and hold. Press through your shoulders, your arms, your feet, and then see if you can hoist the hips up a little higher and go into about 85% of where you could go with this. In yoga, yoga is known for extreme ranges of motion, but that's not always the best. It may not be a problem in the short term, someone who's in their 20s doing a whole bunch of neat poses. However, later on, they might feel everything that they did decades ago. Holding this posture, maybe you can feel how engaged those glutes are. And then we'll take a hold of that block and bring the block on a pretty low setting here. I have a thick one, so I'm going on the lowest. If it's quite thin, you could always flip to medium, but it's not about height. Just rest the pelvis here. Taking the legs up above the hips towards the ceiling. And now we're in a little bit of a back bend, so I like to slide my torso up and just find the rib cage sinking down towards the floor instead of in a back bend. Want to get rid of that back bend. Drop the arms out wide to the side. Nice. Let the breath come and go. Sink the ribs. I just caught myself thrusting them again. Yes. Now, if you have a client who has cataracts of the eyes or there's eye issues, you do want the head to be supported and you don't want your hips too much higher than the head. Just an FYI. So that's the only type of person this may not be practical for, someone with blood flow issues and eye issues. So hypertension. Great. And then bending into the knees, releasing your feet all the way down to the mat. Great. We will be removing that block, elevate it, and slide it out from underneath you, dropping the hips down to the floor here. Nice. Bring the soles of your feet together, dropping the knees wide. And then allow your legs to lengthen out. Feet are towards the edges of your mat. Giving the legs a little shimmy here so you can squeeze each glute, give them a little squeeze, and that helps, that activation of those muscles will help to balance the pull that is happening at the joint of the hips, the bones of the hips here. So we want to feel the force of the buttocks counter the force of those hip flexors, which we use all of the time. These are overused and the glutes are very much underused. These are abused and these are ignored. And then relax. Let the breath come and go. As you stay reclined, close the eyes only if that feels comfortable and safe for you. Allow the fingers to straighten, maybe for the first time today. Really reach those fingers out big and wide and push the nails into the floor. Hopefully not the first time, but maybe throughout the day we didn't do too much straightening In our practice, we certainly did, as a counter to that cell phone claw of a hand that we tend to cultivate. Please stay reclined here. You roll over. Feeling that breath coming in and out through the nostrils. Let the tongue settle up at the top of the roof of the mouth to have proper throat alignment. And then let the tongue relax wherever it goes. It's perfect. Long, deep breaths. And repeating the mantra, I move with kindness. Practicing what we call ahimsa in yoga, that non-violence. Breathe. For sake of time, we are going to start to wiggle the toes and the fingers and eventually roll to one side. If you have the space, eventually roll to your right side, which is considered the sun side of the body. Using the hands, roll the spine up and come back to center. I hope this practice felt good in your body. And as usual, if you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out to me on WhatsApp or even Skype. Thank you so much. Namaste. Mm-hmm.